Imagine the world holding its breath as news breaks that Michelle Pfeiffer, the luminous star whose elegance has graced screens for decades, now confronts a struggle more daunting than any role she has ever played. She is saying goodbye, not to her legacy, but perhaps to the life she once knew. What follows is a story of triumph and tragedy, of private battles hidden behind a Hollywood smile, and a diagnosis so rare and aggressive that even her fiercest performances pale in comparison. For years, fans have admired her flawless beauty, unaware that beneath the sheen of red carpet gowns and the glow of studio lights, a silent adversary was gathering strength. Today that adversary has a name, a diagnosis of advanced pancreatic cancer that has spread too rapidly to contain. Doctors delivered the news in a sterile hospital room, yet the impact reverberated across oceans and continents, echoing in the hearts of millions who have admired her grace, her talent, and her humanity. Her journey began in Santa Ana, California, the daughter of a hard-working air conditioning mechanic and a devoted homemaker who taught her the power of resilience and quiet determination. As a child, she learned that true elegance was born from discipline, not privilege. Every dollar her family earned was paid for in perseverance, every opportunity earned with sweat and humility. These early lessons would shape the woman who eventually captivated Hollywood and the world with her unforgettable performances. At 16, Michelle traded her high school textbooks for supermarket shifts. Her name tag shining under fluorescents as cues of customers reminded her that every dream has a cost. Each night she returned home with blistered feet and unwavering hope, rehearsing lines to herself in front of a cracked mirror. In her quiet determination, she found a sense of purpose that would carry her through rejection after rejection, auditions that ended in polite dismissals, and the relentless grind of an industry hungry for youth and novelty. Then came the turning point, the Miss Orange County pageant. With nothing but a determined glimmer in her eye and borrowed evening gown fabric draped around her, she stepped onto a stage that would change her life forever. That small victory opened doors to commercials and bit parts, where casting directors finally saw more than her beauty. They saw an intensity, a depth that pulsed beneath every delicate gesture. It was the first spark of fame in a fire that would soon engulf the world. In 1983, she arrived on the scene as Elvira Hancock in Scarface, opposite Al Pacino, her icy poise and simmering intensity creating a character that has become legendary. Critics, who once dismissed her potential, now scrambled to praise her command of the screen. From that moment on, she was no longer just a pretty face, she was a force, an actor capable of transforming silence into magnetism, vulnerability into power, and a fleeting glance into a story all its own. The next decade saw Michelle ascend to true stardom. From the Witches of Eastwick to Dangerous Liaisons, she collected awards, nominations and accolades that spoke to her versatility and emotional range. At the height of her fame, she commanded salaries unheard of for women in Hollywood, yet even amidst red carpet parades and thunderous applause, a private restlessness lingered, an unspoken hunger for purpose beyond the spotlight, for a life free from the relentless demands of cinematic perfection. Then, in an interview that shocked the world, Michelle revealed the harrowing truth. She had been diagnosed 6 months earlier with stage IV pancreatic cancer. The disease, known for its stealth and aggression, had been silently advancing, claiming strength and vitality with ruthless precision. Yet in her first public remarks, she spoke not of fear, but of gratitude, for every role that shaped her, every fan whose love carried her, and every moment she still had to share her art. Her announcement arrived with characteristic poise. Facing the cameras with a gentle yet unwavering gaze, she spoke of plans to focus on her family, to savor the small joys of life that once went unnoticed in the pursuit of roles and reviews. Beneath her composed exterior, though, lay a storm of emotions, sorrow for memories she might not make, hope for moments yet to come, and a steely resolve to fight on her own terms, whether the fight lasted months or years. Within hours of her statement, tributes poured in from Hollywood legends and everyday admirers alike. Social media campaigns invited fans to share their favorite Michelle Pfeiffer moments, turning sorrow into celebration. Meanwhile, She quietly resumed her work with cancer research foundations, determined to transform her diagnosis into advocacy, fueling hope for others, while confronting her own mortality with grace. In the days after Michelle's brave revelation, the world watched with a mixture of sorrow and admiration. Social media feeds overflowed with tribute montages, clips of her most unforgettable performances set against soaring music, reminders of the joy and inspiration she gifted audiences. Colleagues from every era reached out: Al Pacino, Jeff Goldblum, Denzel Washington, each sharing warm anecdotes about her generosity, her fierce intelligence, and the quiet power she brought to every set. Even fans who had never met her in person found connection in her vulnerability, echoing their own battles and moments of hope. Behind every tweet and post lay individuals transformed by her art, inspired to confront adversity with the same fortitude she displayed. In those digital memorials, her legacy felt immediate, alive, and achingly universal. In the quiet halls of her treatment center, Michelle found an unexpected kind of camaraderie among nurses, doctors, and fellow patients. Some shared whispered advice on coping with fatigue and nausea, while others offered a gentle hand to squeeze in solidarity. Her husband David became a steadfast anchor, accompanying her to every appointment, translating medical jargon, and reminding her of laughter beyond the clinic walls. Their children sent daily messages of love and hope, little digital notes that appeared like sunbeams on the gloomiest mornings. Through it all, Michelle maintained her signature grace, sprinkling humor into dire moments with witty remarks about IV stands and hospital gowns. That delicate balance of vulnerability and courage only deepened the respect of everyone around her, exposing facets of her spirit unseen under the red carpet lights. Determined not to become defined by her illness, Michelle immersed herself in learning about new treatment options. She balanced chemotherapy sessions with clinical trials, her sharp mind absorbing every detail of protocols. At dawn, she practiced gentle yoga in her living room, drawing strength from slow breaths and centering mantras, a ritual taught by a close friend who revered mindful presence. Afternoons brought visits with specialists, poring over lab results, weighing risks with the same exacting focus she once reserved for scripts. Evenings offered solace as she read letters from fans, their encouraging words folding into quiet prayers for her recovery. Though the schedule was grueling, she refused to relinquish her identity, composing poetry on her phone and sketching ideas for the chapters yet unwritten. In every heartbeat, she held on to hope. Michelle, who once mastered transforming vulnerability into strength on screen, now faced her greatest role, confronting mortality. After her diagnosis, she spoke candidly about the fear that shadows each new dawn, but insisted courage is a choice we make every morning. "I choose to greet each sunrise with gratitude," she said, eyes bright. This mindset echoed in her past performances, from the fierce Catwoman stalking Gothic rooftops to the tender Lestat's love interest in Interview with the Vampire. Rather than chasing fame, she poured her energy into living meaningfully, redefining success not by awards or box office returns, but by the depth of connections she nurtured. Embracing impermanence, she reminded us that life's true value lies in presence, not permanence, a lesson rendered all the more poignant by her fight. While her physical strength is tested daily, Michelle's spirit continues to radiate outward. In the past year, she earmarked millions for pancreatic cancer research, funding clinical trials and patient support programs. She partnered with non-profit groups to launch an initiative called Morning Light, offering meditation sessions and outreach to patients facing terminal diagnoses. Even as she receives treatments, she finds time to record voiceover narrations for a documentary chronicling her life, from dusty supermarket aisles to the grandeur of film sets, believing that sharing her story might comfort others. Slated for release next spring, the project promises an unvarnished view of resilience in adversity. In this act of creative defiance, Michelle proves her legacy will extend far beyond box office numbers, living on in the lives and hope of those she touches. As the world waits breathlessly for updates on her condition, Michelle's story stands as a testament to perseverance over despair. When cameras catch her arrival at the clinic, head held high amid whispered prayers, she exudes both vulnerability and invincibility. Every radiant smile carries echoes of battles won in private rooms, and each wave signals an unspoken pledge to fight on. Behind the scenes, her team prepares a digital corner where she will share coping strategies, from grounding breathing exercises to playlists that lift her spirits. Through these conversations, she aims to turn personal pain into collective strength, forging a community bound by empathy. In this next chapter, Michelle's courage invites us all to honor her legacy and truly believe in hope, even when the horizon feels uncertain. As the chemotherapy sessions pressed on, Michelle discovered that the fiercest battles are waged not only in hospital wards, but within the quiet chambers of the heart. Each sunrise in her seaside retreat became a solemn reminder that time, once taken for granted, had become the most precious currency. She rose before dawn, planting her feet on dewy grass, and greeting the horizon with a whispered vow to live fully, no matter how many mornings remained. On particularly difficult days, when fatigue weighed down her limbs like lead, she found unexpected strength in the knowledge that every breath she drew was an act of defiance against despair. In those moments, the memory of her earliest struggles, bagging groceries under flickering neon lights, surfaced not as pain but as proof of her capacity to endure. Between rounds of infusions, Michelle devoted herself to creative work that allowed her to transform suffering into art. At a sunlit writing desk, she poured her thoughts into a memoir that traced every chapter of her journey, from small-town dreams to cinematic triumphs. Each sentence carried the cadence of her own voice, unflinching, poetic, and alive, revealing intimate truths rarely shared on red carpets. She drafted letters to the doctors pioneering new treatments, offering candid praise for their tireless dedication and urging them to push boundaries. Simultaneously, she teamed up with a documentary filmmaker to capture raw footage of her daily routines: yoga stretches at dawn, gentle laughter with her children over breakfast, silent reflections on her balcony as waves crashed below. This film, slated for festival circuits next year, would chronicle a story of survival, hope, and the fragile beauty of impermanence. Meanwhile, her advocacy took on monumental scale. Partnering with leading research institutions, she announced a multi-million-dollar grant to accelerate clinical trials for early detection methods. With characteristic humility, she credited countless unsung heroes, lab technicians, research fellows, and volunteers who risked long nights for the promise of breakthroughs. At a press conference in New York, she spoke with measured grace, her voice steady even as tears shimmered at the corners of her eyes. "We stand at the brink of discovery," she declared, "and I refuse to let fear eclipse our collective resolve." Journalists asked how she found the courage to keep fighting. She replied simply, "I fight for every person who has ever felt powerless. I fight so no one else has to walk this path alone." Back on film sets, Michelle returned for brief cameo roles in independent features, her presence a testament to her enduring passion. Directors appreciated how she channeled her ordeal into depth and nuance. Each glance spoke volumes, imbued with a vulnerability that transcended words. During one scene in a darkly lit studio, she laughed between takes, the sound crystalline, as if joy itself refused to be extinguished. Crew members described her as a beacon of professionalism and kindness. She insisted on learning each stagehand's name, offered words of encouragement to younger actors, and regularly checked in to ensure every department felt seen. In embracing collaboration, she reminded the industry that true stardom is not measured by marquee value but by generosity of spirit. At home, evenings unfolded in quiet rituals. Over dinner, she and David shared soft laughter, recounting the day's small victories: a new trial showing promise, a child conquering fear, the discovery of a sunrise that painted the sky in rose and gold. Their home, once a fast-paced hub of social engagements, transformed into a sanctuary of presence, windows flung open to the sea breeze, walls adorned with children's artwork, shelves lined with photos of family road trips and candid celebrations. Michelle would hold her daughter's hand and marvel at the artwork's vivid hues, or whisper bedtime stories to her son, savoring each syllable as though it were a precious relic. In these simple moments, she unearthed the profound truth that love is life's truest balm. Publicly, she embraced transparency. Through a series of online conversations, she spoke frankly about the side effects of treatment: hair loss, insatiable fatigue, moments of profound sadness, while underscoring that vulnerability is not weakness, but the gateway to empathy. Viewers responded with an outpouring of support, countless letters, videos of fans singing her favorite songs outside cancer centers, and fundraisers organized by community groups she had never met. A viral hashtag, #PfeifferStrong, united thousands across continents, turning screens into virtual gathering places of solidarity. It was a movement born from the courage of one woman determined to remind the world that every act of compassion, no matter how small, reverberates with power. In the midst of this whirlwind, Michelle paused to reflect on her career's defining moments. She revisited clips of her breakthrough performance as Elvira Hancock, noting how silence and stillness on camera once captivated audiences. She rewatched scenes of her Catwoman, marveling at how playfulness and ferocity intertwined to create an icon. She considered her lesser-known roles characters steeped in quiet dignity, resilience and grace, and recognized that each had been a step in her own evolution. In an intimate video diary, she addressed her fans directly. "My life has taught me that roles come and go, but the story you live remains. Mine is one of heartbreak and triumph, beauty and endurance, and it still has chapters to unfold." As Section 3 draws to a close, the world holds its collective breath, awaiting news of Michelle's condition, inspired by her unwavering resolve. Though uncertainty lingers at every crossroads, her narrative is no longer just her own. It belongs to every person who finds courage in her example. With each passing day, she redefines what it means to be a star, not a distant idol draped in finery, but a human being whose scars shine as brightly as her achievements. In teaching us to embrace our fragility and transform it into strength, Michelle Pfeiffer stands as a testament to the indomitable power of hope, the beauty of shared humanity, and the enduring legacy of a life lived fully, even in the face of a tragic diagnosis. But as the seasons shifted, Michelle's journey took on new dimensions, a delicate dance between the relentless advance of treatment schedules and the unwavering resolve to reclaim joy wherever it could be found. Each morning began with tremors of uncertainty, the crunch of hospital linens beneath her feet, the hum of fluorescent lights in sterile corridors, and the familiar sight of lab coats moving like silent sentinels along sunlit halls. Yet within this choreography of tests and trials, she discovered pockets of beauty, a nurse's soft reminder to breathe deeply, the infectious laughter of a fellow patient clutching her hand in solidarity, the gentle drift of light through tinted windows painting the walls with hope. In these fleeting moments, Michelle sensed that hope itself could be an act of artistry, as precise and transformative as any performance she had ever given. Determined to harness this renewed sense of purpose, she intensified her efforts to turn personal pain into collective progress. Partnering with global health organizations, she launched a program called Echo of Light, aimed at funding early detection research and providing comprehensive support networks for newly diagnosed patients. Through virtual roundtables, she facilitated conversations between oncologists, researchers, and survivors, ensuring that breakthroughs in one lab could swiftly translate into improved protocols in clinics around the world. Michelle's voice resonated beyond celebrity status. It was authoritative, lived in and suffused with compassion. Her personal endorsement led to spikes in donations and unprecedented media coverage, breaking through the walls of stigma that had long surrounded pancreatic cancer. Parallel to her philanthropic ambitions, Michelle remained deeply entwined with her craft. She recorded voiceovers for an animated series depicting heroes overcoming impossible odds, rendering each line with a quiet intensity born of real-life confrontation with mortality. Directors sought her out for cameo roles in independent films helmed by emerging talents who saw her presence as both an inspiration and a challenge to push cinematic boundaries. On one set, she arrived in a simple cardigan and soft scarf, greeting every crew member by name and asking after their families. In interviews, she spoke unabashedly about her condition, refusing to sanitize her experience for the camera. By melding transparency with artistry, she reframed vulnerability as a strength and reminded viewers that the truest performances unfold when we embrace our own fragility. At home, the rhythms of family life wove themselves into her recovery narrative. Evenings were filled with shared stories over fragrant home-cooked meals, where laughter rose to meet the setting sun outside their open windows. She invented bedtime lullabies for her daughter that blended gentle melodies with spoken affirmations of courage. With her son, she mapped constellations on the balcony, weaving tales of mythical heroines who battled darkness with light. These rituals of tenderness became Michelle's sanctuary, a reminder that love can be a bulwark against despair. In holding her children close, she discovered that motherhood, like her acting, was an arena of transformation, where genuine presence could heal wounds deeper than any medicine. Yet she refused to let her narrative become defined solely by illness. In the late afternoons, she retreated to her writing desk to refine her memoir, crafting passages that peeled back the glamour of Hollywood to reveal the tender spaces where real life happens. She explored the metaphorical power of masks, both those worn on set and those we hide behind in daily life, and urged readers to shed them in pursuit of authenticity. The pages brimmed with anecdotes of her supermarket cashier days, carrot-scented summers in Orange County, and the exhilaration of stepping onto the Scarface set, trembling with both fear and hope. By capturing the full spectrum of her experience from youthful ambition to mature resilience, she created a literary portrait that resonated with anyone who had ever dared to dream. Outside her home, the world responded in kind. Fan-organized fundraisers sprouted in cities from Tokyo to Rio de Janeiro, where supporters shared stories of how Michelle's performances had helped them navigate their own trials. International researchers credited her grant with expediting novel trials in early detection, pushing back the timeline for potential cures. In charity auctions, her handwritten notes fetched record sums, each sale reinforcing the notion that her influence extended far beyond box office tallies. And when she appeared at medical symposiums, the audience rose to applaud not a distant star, but a fellow traveler whose courage illuminated a path for others to follow. Throughout this whirlwind of action and advocacy, Michelle held fast to a singular guiding principle, that meaning arises not from what we receive but from what we give. With every signature added to research initiatives, every word recorded for awareness campaigns, and every embrace shared with someone battling the same disease, she wove a tapestry of solidarity resilient enough to outlast her own journey. Each day she continued to temper the reality of her fragile body with the boundless capacity of the human spirit to hope, innovate, and love. As Section 4 draws to a close, the world watches in awe as Michelle Pfeiffer transforms her most personal trial into a universal call to action. Her story, still unfolding with every sunrise, reminds us that even when saying goodbye seems imminent, we can choose instead to say hello to new possibilities, deeper connections, and the unbreakable bonds of community. In teaching us to meet life's greatest adversities with grace and resolve, she demonstrates that the true measure of a legacy lies not in awards collected or lines memorized, but in lives uplifted and futures forever changed. In the coming weeks, Michelle felt a shift from private struggle to public triumph. She knew her illness had become a beacon for those seeking hope. Each morning she read stories from newly diagnosed patients around the globe. Their bravery reminded her that survival is as much community as medicine. Determined to amplify these voices, she hosted virtual gatherings of survivors and experts. Panels convened across time zones, transforming living rooms into global forums of solidarity. Panelists shared breakthroughs, personal anecdotes, and strategies for coping with uncertainty. Viewers tuned in by the thousands, photocalling donations and resources with every click. Major media outlets featured the gatherings, propelling the movement into mainstream view. Hospitals implemented support groups, modeled on Michelle's concept, fostering connection. Early detection research received unprecedented funding through grants she helped secure. Red carpet events took on new meaning as she wore advocacy pins alongside couture. Photographers captured her gentle smile beside banners promoting a cure for pancreatic cancer. Actors and directors joined her campaign, using their platforms to share her message. In small towns and big cities, candlelit vigils sprang up overnight. People gathered in parks, theaters, and community centers, ringing bells to honor patients. Their actions turned private grief into collective solidarity, echoing Michelle's own steps. On one evening in Paris, a vigil illuminated the Cénith with hundreds of candles. A choir sang her favorite aria, as strangers held hands under the bridges. The scene, captured on social media, moved the world to tears and action. Meanwhile, back home, Michelle found solace in painting abstract canvases in her studio. Each brushstroke represented a moment of gratitude amid pain and uncertainty. Colors blended to symbolize resilience, hope, and the ebb and flow of life. She gifted select artworks to hospitals for fundraising auctions with heartfelt inscriptions. Nurses and doctors marveled at their power as tokens of patient support. Through her art, she continued performing on a different stage of human experience. Beyond her creative and philanthropic pursuits, she remained mindful of self-care. Morning meditation sessions grew longer as she dove deeper into mindfulness practices. Gentle Pilates offered strength without strain, honoring her body's changing limits. Nutrient-rich meals replaced red carpet indulgences, nourishing her from within. She cultivated a garden of healing herbs to brew teas that soothed her soul. In every ritual she found a balance between fight and surrender. This balance infused her public appearances with authenticity and quiet confidence. Documentaries chronicled her daily routines, giving audiences an intimate window into recovery. Directors praised her willingness to reveal vulnerability as revolutionary storytelling. Exhibitions showcased her memoir's first chapters illustrated by her own pen sketches.